All right, hello everybody. My name is Donald Rabin. I'm the National Flute Association staging manager, and welcome to the Adult Amateur Competition presentation with the amazing Christina Condon and our two wonderful guests who are the winners for today. And thanks so much for joining us on this beautiful Sunday. We have a lot in store for you, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Christina, our Adult Amateur Competition coordinator.
Thank you all for being here. This is the third annual Adult Amateur Competition. It's a newer competition with the National Flute Association. And for this competition, all the participants, there was a first round, one round, recorded round, and that was sent in. And we had judges listen to that. And so for the winners, there were two winners, and I actually can't remember how many people we had, but it was very competitive, and I know there was it was very difficult to choose these top two winners. But our judges this year were Shelley Collins, Jessica Donovan, and Angela Heckmuller, and we really thank them for their hard work on listening to all of these wonderful recordings. And our two winners today, we have André Solomon, and he's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Hello, André. And then we also have Nate Painter in Durham, North Carolina. And thank you guys for being here. And I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to listen to them both perform. So Donald, if you could screen share that, thank you.
Here we go.
I think we're having
Sorry,
a little technical
sorry
difficulty.
for the
That's all right.
technical difficulties. Christina, do you mind sharing from your end? I don't know what's.
Yes, I will go ahead and do that. Sorry about that. Um, all right, let's see. We're somewhere around, I think, here. Does this seem right? 7:20. This is good. All right. Bravi tutti, that was wonderful. And it's just great how we can all come together from across the country on a Sunday afternoon, listen to some great music and meet some great flutists and still be home for dinner. Um, Thank you both, Nate and Andre. Beautiful performances. Um, so for this performance for today's event, both of our winners got to choose their music. And so I just wanted to ask you both, why did you choose the pieces that you chose? Nate, can you start for us?
Sure. So when I got the notification that I'd won, I was like, oh, now I need to decide on a piece. And so I asked a few flute friends and got a lot of good recommendations, but two of them were like, you should play the song Con. And I was like, I've had it in my library for forever, I think since high school, and I have never played it, never performed it. And I was like, this would be a great time to like take it out and actually look at it. So that's what I did. But I've always enjoyed it. I've heard it performed plenty of times, but had just never done anything with it myself. So I felt like now is as good a time as any to go ahead and perform it.
I think that's a great reason. I think I've done something similar to that too. Wonderful. And Andre, tell us about your piece.
Yeah, so similar, have to play something, so have to start somewhere. And so Sarah, who's in this room, kind of helped me with that journey. But basically, I just thought it was an opportunity to really dive into a lot of my aspirations and goals. For example, especially as an arts administrator, a lot of the things I'm trying to do is uplift BIPOC voices. And so thinking this could be a moment of picking my own piece, having that autonomy, researching, investigating ethnographic research, connecting with the composer. And so really just wanted to pick something new that no one has heard of, and hoping to write something more elaborative as I get jumbled with my words. But I think it was a perfect opportunity to really feel what is missing, what are the gaps, and trying to fill them for my own artistic and personal pleasure, but at the same time to put out a piece there that the whole flute community can tap into.
That's great. And I think both of your pieces, very contrasting and very enjoyable, wonderful performances. So, Andre, you did mention having goals as a musician, and that you work in arts administration. So, what are your goals right now as a musician?
Yeah. Sarah, who's also here, I keep pointing her out, but it's an interesting question just because I feel like I'm really trying to figure out what does it mean to be a musician when musician isn't your full-time gig. And I think there's so many ways to be a musician. And so for me, I'm really trying to break down like kind of the social constructs that have told us X, Y, and Z equals musician. And so for me, that's kind of figuring out like, how do I plan performances? How do I keep up my practice routine? Researching, sharing things. And so a lot of my goals in terms of being a musician, I think has to do a lot of with personal affirmation. Even just calling oneself a musician in itself can be such a big step. And so knowing that I am professional and all of that, but like taking the time to remember that everyone in here in this room is a musician, as long as you figure out why you are driven to that in the first place. So yeah, it's not as accurate or not as direct of an answer, but more so figuring that out in a personal sense. Yeah.
I think actually that's very direct. Thank you. That's a great answer. And Nate, how about for you? What are your current musical goals?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've always just enjoyed playing. I love being a musician and interacting with other people in the music community, whether it be other flutists or other musicians in orchestras and small chamber ensembles and whatnot. So I always enjoy that kind of camaraderie and collaboration with others. At this point, it is really trying to find those groups that work with your other life schedule. I'm a physician on the side or as my main gig, so trying to find the time to be able to practice and figure out what groups I can work with that I can make it to rehearsals on a somewhat regular basis. I think that's a big challenge, and finding out kind of also what do I want out of it? So currently I'm doing just some local kind of chamber groups and a flute choir. Obviously I'd love to play in like a community orchestra and that kind of thing, but again, figuring out those times can be a big challenge when you have the rest of your life also going on. But staying active and just keeping in touch with the community through the NFA, through the convention, that kind of thing, I think is a big help in making it easier to do that, for me at least.
And being an amateur flutist, you're right. You have your whole life is also happening at the same time, and music isn't necessarily the thing that is taking up 40 plus hours of your week. And so a lot of these questions I think are really great for all of us to see how we can keep music in our lives when we do have other things going on. Because I think most musicians are amateurs, and the word amateur comes from the word to love, and we do it because we love it. And Nate, then you brought me actually to my next question for you guys, and that was what kind of ensembles are you playing in, or have you played in, or are you trying to play in like locally? How are you staying active in your community musically?
Yeah, I would say kind of I did music and science in undergrad, and when I got to med school, I played in a local wind ensemble. It was a really great wind ensemble. They played challenging repertoire, so it was nice to play in that kind of group. And throughout that, would do competitions through I was in North Carolina at the time, so would do some competitions through the Raleigh Area Flute Association. And kind of did that through medical school. And then once I got to residency and out in real life, it became much more of a challenge to do anything. So I really took it upon myself I've done a couple of recitals, and it was kind of, I've collected a lot of repertoire. I want to play for people because I love playing, and I want to have other people be able to hear me play. And so it was like, you know what, I'm going to do a recital. I'm going to find some people to take lessons with, and then we're going to make this happen. So I've done that a few times, but playing in those local ensembles of some degree. I've done flute choirs is probably the easiest and the least time consuming to do, I would say. So I've been lucky enough to be part of the flute choir that was part of the Seattle Flute Society when I was living there, and then here in North Carolina with one of the flute choirs in the Raleigh area. So that's how I've been playing at this point, is those kind of smaller chamber flute groups, which has been really nice to meet other people in the community and stay in contact. And then I've been lucky enough to be able to go to the NFA convention every year for the last several years. So interacting with other flute players, going to the concerts, seeing people and meeting everyone, I think that's kept me involved in the music community, at least on the flute side, a little bit more than I would have otherwise.
Absolutely. And Andre, how about you?
Yeah. I know quickly from undergrad, I went to Carnegie Mellon for my arts administration degree, and was kind of contemplating how to like keep it up at all, especially when time seems to be a theme here. There's not enough of it. And so first it was kind of solo stuff, which kind of made me sad, because at the same time, like playing with people, even if it's with the pianist or anyone, just gives me a lot of joy. And so luckily, and I keep pointing out to her, but I won't make her take her Zoom off, but Sarah, who I studied with, kind of got me in connection with the flute. Oh, you didn't have to share your face, but got me connected with the Pittsburgh Flute Choir. And then even from there, like, current times, I've really had fortunate enough to be asked to play for the CMU Chamber Ensemble. So sometimes just asking, hey, can I play? Can get you somewhere. And then also shout out to another person in here, Kevin, starting to kind of figure out a chamber ensemble with other people in the Pittsburgh community. So I really have realized, though I love playing alone, and I like my practice room and I like that serenity, nothing gives me more joy than playing with other people.
I agree. I love playing with other people too. And I feel like getting to play alone is great, but finding more groups to play with, or even just a pianist, really makes that practicing time even more worth it. So you both have some interests outside of music, but you also have interests within music that are very different. And I was just wondering, so do either of you play other instruments other than flute, or did you start on something else, or did you start on flute? How did that work out for you in the beginning? Nate?
So I started out, I took piano lessons from 3rd to 7th grade and still play around a little bit on the piano that we have. I usually try and muddle through the piano parts of the flute pieces that I'm giving to my collaborator. And then I'm like, I'm sorry that I'm giving you this thing. But I've at least played it, so I kind of know how terrible and difficult it is. And then I played flute starting in 7th grade, and I've played it ever since. I played tenor sax in the high school jazz band for a couple of years, but I don't think I've touched a saxophone really since then. And then I've played the various flutes, piccolos, altos in like shows during undergrad for musicals. So I've been forced to play like the penny whistle and some of the recorders as well for those, but have mostly stuck with flute and the flute family.
And Andre?
Everyone might know their love-hate relationship with the recorder. So that's kind of where I started my journey. And then flute, kind of traditional 4th grade on. And then in high school, for me, I got interested in similar to like the Blue Man Group or Stomp. So I was able to play with percussions. I really love playing mallet percussion just because that transition from reading sheet music and all that. Which also allowed me to play the saxophone, though I don't like reeds. It's a beautiful instrument. And then college doing some piano, which I try to keep up with when I can. But yeah, I'm always down to learn an instrument, but flute always has my heart.
I figured that there were probably more instruments in your backgrounds. I could just tell. So, who were your like early musical influences? Did you have a particular teacher early on that got you hooked on flute, or was there something else about the instrument that makes you really like it? I mean, Solomon, I know that, or Andre, I know that you said you don't like reeds. So I know that reeds would not have gotten you. So what was it about the flute, Andre?
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone knows it because I grew up watching like PBS and stuff. So great performances, which usually would be at like the weekends or really late nights. And so tuned in one night with my mom, watching like an orchestra, and saw the flute. It was shiny, it was beautiful, it sounded great. And that really drew me to it. And I don't know if it was like a one-to-one kind of direct thing, or if it was like when 4th grade was rolling up, but basically I was like, this is what I want to play. And really, really thankful to my mom, who however she found like a really, really affordable flute and was like, here you go. And so I started. But yeah, all thanks to PBS for sure.
And Nate?
I started when we were able to pick instruments in middle school. I think the year before, a friend of mine who lived down the street played flute. She was a year ahead of me. And so I remember I would go over to her house and like try and play and hold like a G for 4 beats. And I was like, this seems really easy. And then stuck with it and discovered that flute is not as easy as just holding a G for 4 beats. But that friend kind of started me on it, and I kept on going from there.
I love hearing the stories of how people chose their instrument. It's never just like, "Oh, I showed up and I played."
Yeah.
There's always a little bit more to it. So for both of you, is there a particular flutist that has inspired you in your playing, or that you really like to listen to? Nate? Andre?
I think that's a great question. I started out, the first CD I ever had I got was the Ron Paul 4 Seasons. So I remember listening to that in like 7th and 8th grade and hearing that and thinking that was amazing. And I think growing up through there, with James Galway as well, those were probably my 2 earliest intros to like really good flute players. I had some good teachers in Utah that kind of expanded that out as well in my high school years when I was playing. and got to meet more people, went to master classes that were there. But I would say probably, again, the standard Ron Paul, Galway were my intros. And nowadays, the flute community is so big. There's so many amazing flute players out there to be able to hear and get inspired by on a daily basis. It's really, there's so many to name at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that last point. There are so many people. Um, Sarah also might know this, but Laura Zucker, I really like the way she plays. She puts out a lot of music out there, really accessible on Spotify, probably other streaming platforms too. So that's like the first name that kind of just resonates with me. But I think honestly, from people from undergrad to my teacher, two of them are here today. Those people really do motivate me and keep me in check. And so I really want to think about the people I experience on a daily who I really look up to. But Laurel, if she ever hears this, good work on the albums.
You guys would keep jumping into all my next questions, and I think I've gone through almost all of them. So if anybody in the group here has a question, why don't you send it to me in the private chat there so I can ask some questions too. So another question I was wondering here is, so I actually already answered kind of it. I asked about what other flutes did you play, and I think Nate, you said you've already played piccolo, right? And did you mention alto flute too, or did I read something about that somewhere else?
I have played alto and got roped into buying one at the last NFA convention.
I wouldn't call it roped in. I think that's a great purchase.
If you knew the situation.
Uh-oh.
But yeah,
so are you playing alto?
So I'm trying to find pieces to play.
Are you playing alto in any flute choirs or anything?
I am. I was like the flute choir director here. I told her that I got an alto and she's like, oh, we're going to make you play that. So I'm excited about it. It's a new instrument. It has a lovely sound. So I'm excited to play it in more groups for sure. And if it keeps me away from the piccolo, I'm okay with that too.
And Andre, how about you? You play, I'm sure you play piccolo, right?
Yeah, I played piccolo a lot in marching band. And I played the other ones, but I own a piccolo and then flute. But I've tried to branch out. But you know, you always home is where the C flute is, I guess. So I'm always there.
Okay, so question for both of you. Can you name an experience that was a little bit crazy, that maybe like your instrument broke right before a concert, or you lost an instrument, or some kind of experience like that, if you've ever had one?
Well, most recently, in preparing for the recorded video that you had, I had everything packed up and ready to go, get in the car, show up there. And I had left the video camera at my house and there was no time to turn around to go back. So I was like, well, at least I have my iPhone. And I had randomly thrown in the carrier to hold on to the iPhone on the tripod. So it worked out okay, because otherwise it would have been propped up against a book or something to make this recording. So that's the most recent one, because it was, again, a month ago, and stands out because I could picture exactly where that camera was, and it was still right there when I got home.
That'll sure get your heart rate going, just as if you were doing a live performance, right?
Absolutely.
And Andre, have you had any crazy experiences like that?
I probably have, knowing myself, but like none of them are coming to me.
That's good though.
Yeah. Well, someone might say otherwise, but one thing I can just think about recently was we were traveling for a work thing, and I tried to bring my flute just because it's so compact, and they like lost my luggage, so I was like scared I had lost my flute. But we were reunited, but just thinking that like it was out somewhere was definitely freaky.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Nate, I have a question for you. How did you manage playing in groups during med school?
It was Med school made it a little bit easier. I would say the first 2 years typically are non-clinical, so it's mostly just going to lecture all day and then studying on your free time. So doing the concerts and rehearsals like once a week, it was pretty manageable. I would say the last 2 years when I was on clinical rotations, there were some rehearsals where it was like, I am just going to be late or won't be able to make this one because I was on call overnight or working an overnight shift. So there were definitely some rehearsals that I miss, and it's kind of been that way ever since. My schedule tends to be some late nights or overnights and weekends. So it's like, I won't be there this Sunday because I'll be in the hospital. But tend to be able to make it up and attend enough of them to make it worthwhile and not be that person who's never at a rehearsal.
Yeah. And another question I have for you here is for both of you. What was your inspiration for choosing to participate in this competition?
I think for me, I always, I don't want to say like competing, but I thought it was always a challenge to be able to compete, and it forced me to practice and work on new pieces. And I think being in a venue like through the NFA where you're out there and you're competing against other flutists, and it's not just other musicians in a broader sense, but other people who know the intricacies, the challenges of the instrument that you are playing. I think that was really exciting, and it was like, okay, it's easier to compare myself amongst this group that really know how our instrument works, what works well, what doesn't work well, what's challenging and what's not. And to be able to do that through an organization that is on the national and even international level, I thought that was kind of exciting, because there's so many things for high schoolers and young artists and more professional musicians. And I was like, there's a lot of us that just play for fun. And I think it's nice to be able to keep up our skills and get out there in the community with everybody else.
And André?
Yeah, I would definitely echo the part about keeping up practicing and like having something to do. I was just talking, so sorry, Sarah, but I was talking to Sarah and just thinking about like, how do you manage your practice and your ambition and your aspirations when you don't have something? And just thinking about how you craft a practice a journey with what you got. And so again, luckily Sarah I'm very much so like capacity. So, just like you, Nate, we're doing other things. And so I'm like, do I have time for this? Can I fit it in? I want to be meaningful and intentional. And I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe not. And, Sarah, gave me the boost and said, like, you got it, you could do it. There's time. I think a lot of times I'll be like, do you think the time that we have, can we do this? And so when she says yes, I pretty much trust her. And so I really want to say that motivation really helped me apply. And I think, again, aligned with my goals that I've told her in the past of like, keeping myself up, putting myself out there as a musician. And so the goals aligned. Sometimes you just need a little kick in the pants or a love tap, or I don't know, trying to make it nice to make you do these things.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. And I think a lot of times when we hear about competitions in the music community, people go, oh, well, music is art. It shouldn't be a competition. And I think you both see it in a different way. And it's that this is a chance to improve yourselves, experience music another way, and, just find more than what you would have found had you not participated. And I think that for the most part, I think that's what all of the participants in these competitions are doing. And I'm glad that you both got to play new music as well. I can't remember if we just talked about it beforehand, but the pieces that you played in the recorded round were new to you both, right? Both pieces that you played? Did we talk about that during this too, or is it just beforehand? I can't remember. Well, so Nate, tell everybody what you played. Oh yeah, so Nate,
we played the Casella barcarolle and scherzo. And then we had the choice of 2 other pieces, and the one that I chose was Claude Pascal's 6 pieces. And again, I had never played either. I had never heard of either composer, never played either of those pieces, but they were a lot of fun to learn and to work on for the competition. So I appreciated that. I was like, even if I'm just expanding my repertoire, it was exciting for me.
Absolutely. And Andre, what did you play again? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And so for myself, I did Allison's Homeland piece, which was really great. Definitely trying in the sense of being a versatile artist, wanting to get into that contemporary scene. So challenging, really nice. There's one section in there that definitely like kicked my butt, but really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so speaking of playing new music and trying out competitions, I want to talk about the 2024 competition real quick. We do have some changes to the competition because this year we just completed was our 3rd year, so this will be the 4th year. We're going to have multiple categories within the adult amateur competition, and you can find the information on the NFA website on the competition repertoire page. So we'll have 3 categories: novice, intermediate, and advanced, and it's different repertoire for each category. So if you thought about participating before and you haven't yet, check it out. There should be something for everyone on there, because amateurs, people who love playing the flute, come in all types. And so I think that that should probably appeal to a lot of people. And I did try to choose music that would not just be stuff that we already know, so also stuff that we can experience new music. And some of it was even new to me. I also try to find new music to learn when I'm choosing the repertoire. So I think that's all for today. And Andre and Nate, thank you so much for playing for the competition and for playing for us today and answering all the questions and showing everyone that, not just being a performer, but playing music while having life and everything is still a great way to be a musician. We really appreciate you being here. And thank you everybody else for attending, and I hope to see a bunch of you next year as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Hi, everybody. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, there we go. I just put her in the waiting room.